Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to the corner. It's your host. Here to give a timely word from the timeless source, which is the Almighty Creator, who is the same yesterday, today, tomorrow, and forevermore. As the popular story goes, He gave His only begotten Son, Yahushua, who's here to take away your sins. If you follow wholeheartedly His ways and His path in order to reach the kingdom of heaven. If you like what this channel does on a daily basis, consider subscribing. If you do, hit the notification bell so you know when the next video pops up. In addition, be the example that the Most High God wants you to be. Share a word, but it's better yet to be the living embodiment of Him, so that more people can see that God lives in you. I resumed reading from the Common English translation of the Bible last week. I guess experimented with the World Messianic translation since I'm reading through the Holy Spirit. Or what I read, it's going to the Holy Spirit within you. Yes, it doesn't matter per se which translation I'm reading, as long as you are edified by God's message for you for today. But anyway, you can find the either translation in the YouVersion app. It's in the App Store or Google Play, depending on the device you may be using. Let's pause for a few seconds for prayer. Pray your own prayer, whoever is listening on your own end. And I would say something on my end. Okay. And thank you, Dad, for allowing me to see another day. Please, as far as your message, let it resonate within our hearts and souls so that we can be better examples of your love and your being. That said, let's start with Exodus chapter 20, Exodus 20. And God spoke all these words: I am the Lord your God, who brought you out of Egypt, out of the house of slavery. You must have no other gods before me. Or do not make an idol for yourself, no form whatsoever of anything in the sky above or on earth below or in the waters under the earth. Do not bow down to them or worship them, because I, the Lord your God, am the passionate God. I punish children for their parents' sin, even to the third and fourth generations of those who hate me. But I am loyal and gracious to the 1,000th generation of those who love me and keep my commandments. Do not use the Lord's your God's name as if it were no significance. The Lord won't forgive anyone who uses His name that way. Remember the Sabbath day and treat it as holy. 6 days you may work and do all your tasks, but the seventh day is a Sabbath to the Lord your God. Do not do any work on it, not you, your sons or daughters, your male or female servants, your animals, or the immigrant who is living with you. Because the Lord made the heavens and the earth, the sea, and everything that is in them in 6 days, but rested on the Sabbath day. That is why the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and made it holy. Honor your father and your mother, so that your life will be long on the fertile land that the Lord has given you. Do not kill. Do not commit adultery. Do not steal. Do not testify falsely against your neighbor. Do not desire and try to take your neighbor's house. Do not desire and try to take your neighbor's wife, male or female servant, ox, donkey, or anything else that belongs to your neighbor. When the people witnessed the thunder and lightning, the smoke, the sound of the horn, and the mountain smoking, the people shook with fear and stood at a distance. They said to Moses, "You speak to us and we'll listen, but don't let God speak to us or we'll die." Moses said to the people, "Don't be afraid, because God has come only to test you and to make sure you are always in awe of God, so that you don't sin." The people stood at a distance while Moses approached the thick darkness in which God was present. The Lord said to Moses, "Say this to the Israelites: You saw for yourselves how I spoke with you from heaven. Don't make alongside me gods of silver or gold for yourselves. Make for me an altar from fertile soil on which to sacrifice your entirely burnt offerings, your well-being sacrifices, your sheep and your oxen. I will come to you and bless you in every place where I make sure my name is remembered. But if you do make for me an altar from stones, don't build it with chisel stone, since using your chisel on a stone will make it impure. Don't climb on to my altar using steps, then your genitals will be exposed by doing so." Exodus chapter 20. Center page and go to 21. Exodus 21. These are the case laws that you should set before them. When you buy me a male Hebrew slave, he will serve you for 6 years, but in the 7th year he will go free without any payment. If he came in single, he will leave single. If he came in married, then his wife will leave with him. If a master gave him a wife, and she bore him sons or daughters, the wife and her children will belong to her master. He will leave single. However, if the slave clearly states, "I love my master, my wife, and my children, and I don't want to go free," then his master will bring him before God. He will bring him to the door or the doorpost. There his master will pierce his ear with a pointed tool, and he will serve him as a slave for life. When a man sells his daughter as a slave, she shouldn't be set free in the same way as male slaves are set free. If she doesn't please her master, who chose her for himself, then her master must let her be brought back by her family. He has no right to sell her to a foreign people, since he has treated her unfairly. If he assigns her to his son, he must give her the rights of her daughter. If he takes another woman for himself, he may not reduce her food, clothing, or marital rights. If he doesn't do these 3 things for her, she will go free without any payment for no money. Anyone who hits or kills someone should be put to death. If the killing wasn't on purpose but an accident allowed by God, then I would designate a place to which the killer can run away. But if someone plots and kills another person on purpose, you should remove the killer from my altar and put him to death. Anyone who violently hits their father or mother should be put to death. Anyone who kidnaps a person, whether they have been sold or still being held, shall be put to death. Anyone who curses their father or mother should be put to death. Where 2 people are fighting and one hits the other with a stone or with his fist, so that he's in bed for a while but doesn't die, if he recovers and is able to walk around outside with a cane, then the one who hit him shouldn't be punished, except to pay for the loss of time from work and to pay for his full recovery. When a slave owner hits a male or a female slave with a rod, and the slave dies immediately, the owner should be punished. But if the slave gets up after a day or 2, the slave owner shouldn't be punished, because the slave is the owner's property. When people who are fighting injure a pregnant woman so that she has a miscarriage but no other injury occurs, then the guilty party will be fined what the woman's husband demands as negotiated with the judges. If there is a further injury, then you will give a life for a life, an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, a hand for a hand, a foot for a foot, a burn for a burn, a bruise for a bruise, and a wound for a wound. When a slave owner hits and blinds the eye of a male or female slave, he should let the slave go free on account of the eye. If he knocks out a tooth of a male or female slave, he should let the slave go free on account of the tooth. When an ox gores a man or a woman to death, the ox should be stoned to death, and the meat of the ox shouldn't be eaten. But the owner of the ox shouldn't be punished. However, the ox has gored people in the past, and its owner had been warned but didn't watch out for it, and the ox ends up killing a man or a woman. The ox should be stoned to death, and its owner should also be put to death. If the owner has to pay compensation, instead he must pay the agreed amount to save his life. If the ox scores a boy or girl, the same case law applies to the owner. If the ox scores a male or female slave, the owner will pay 30 silver shekels to the slave's owner, and the ox will be stoned to death. When someone leaves a pit open or digs a pit and doesn't cover it, and an ox or a donkey falls into the pit, the owner of the pit must make good on the loss. He should pay money to keep the ox's owner. And he should pay money to the ox's owner, but he may keep the dead animal. When someone ox hurts someone else's ox and it dies, they should sell the live ox and divide its price. They should also divide the dead animal between them. But if the ox was known for goring in the past and his owner hadn't watched out for it, the owner must make good the loss. And the ox for an ox, but may keep the dead animal. It's Exodus 21. Let's go to Leviticus chapter 5. Leviticus 5. If you sin by not providing information after hearing a public solemn pledge, even though you are a witness, knowing something or having seen something, so that you become liable to punishment, or by touching some unclean thing, the dead body of an unclean wild animal, unclean livestock, or unclean swarming creature, but the fact goes unknown, so that you become unclean and guilty of sin, or by touching human uncleanness, by any uncleanness that makes one unclean, and the fact goes unknown, but you later learn of it and become guilty of sin, or by carelessly swearing to do something, whether bad or good, whatever one might swear carelessly, and the fact goes unknown, but you later learn of it and become guilty of sin concerning one of these things. At that point, when you have become guilty of sin in one of these ways, you must confess how you have sinned and bring to the Lord as compensation for the sin that was committed a female from the flock, either a sheep or a goat, as a purification offering. The priest will then make reconciliation for you to remove your sin. If you can't afford an animal from the flock, you could bring to the Lord as compensation for your sin 2 doves or 2 pigeons. One as a purification offering, and the other as an entirely burnt offering. You will bring them to the priest, who will first present the one for the purification offering. He will pinch off his head at the back up its neck without splitting it. Then he will sprinkle some of the blood of the purification offering on the side of the altar. The rest of the blood will be drained out at the base of the altar. It is a purification offering. Then with the second bird, the priest will perform an entirely burnt offering according to the regulation. In this way, the priest will make reconciliation for you because of the sin you committed, and you will be forgiven. If you cannot afford 2 doves or 2 pigeons, you can bring an offering. You can bring as the offering for your sin 1/10 of an ephah of choice, which is an ephah again is 2 quarts, by the way. No, an ephah actually is 20 quarts, and it's for all intents and purposes. In this case, 1/10 of an ephah is 2 quarts. You can bring as offering for your sin 1/10 of an a tenth of an ephah of choice flour, or as a purification offering. You must not put any oil in it, nor any frankincense, because it is a purification offering. You will bring it to the priest, and the priest will take a handful from it, the token portion, and will burn it completely on the altar, along with the food gifts from the Lord. It is a purification offering. In this way, the priest will make reconciliation for you for whichever one of the sins you've committed, and you will be forgiven. The rest of the offering will belong to the priest like the grain offering. The Lord said to Moses, whenever you commit wrongdoing, unintentionally sinning against any of the Lord's holy things, you must bring to the Lord as your compensation a flawless ram from the flock, its value calculated in silver shekels according to the sanctuary shekels as a compensation offering. You will make amends for the way you have sinned against the holy thing. You will add 1/5 to its value and give it to the priest. And the priest will make reconciliation for you with the ram for the compensation offering, and you will be forgiven. If you sin by breaking any of the Lord's commands, but without realizing it, doing something that shouldn't be done, and then become guilty and liable to punishment, you must bring a flawless ram from the flock at the standard value as a compensation offering to the priest. The priest will make reconciliation for you for the unintentional fault that you committed, even though you didn't realize it, and you will be forgiven. It is a compensation offering. You have definitely become guilty before the Lord. It's Leviticus chapter 5. Let's go to Leviticus 12. Leviticus 12. The Lord said to Moses, say to the Israelites, if a woman conceives a child and gives birth to a son, she will be unclean for 7 days, just as she is during her menstrual period. On the 8th day, the flesh of the boy's foreskin must be circumcised. For 33 days, the mother will be in a state of blood purification. She must not touch anything holy or enter the sacred area until her time of purification is complete. But if the woman gives birth to a daughter, she will be unclean for 2 weeks, just as she is during her menstrual period, and will be in a state of blood purification for 66 days. When the time of purification is complete, whether a son or a daughter, the mother must bring a 1-year-old lamb as an entirely burnt offering, and a pigeon or turtle dove as a purification offering to the priest at the meeting's tent entrance. The priest will present it before the Lord and make reconciliation for her. She will then be cleansed from her blood flow. This is the instruction for any woman who has a child, male or female. But if the mother can't afford a sheep, she can bring 2 turtle doves or 2 pigeons, one for the entirely burnt offering and the other for the purification offering. The priest will then make reconciliation for her, and she will be clean. Leviticus 12. Let's go to Leviticus 19. Leviticus 19. The Lord said to Moses, say to the whole community of the Israelites, you must be holy, because I, the Lord your God, am holy. Each of you must respect your mother and father. You must keep my Sabbaths. I am the Lord your God. Do not turn to idols or make gods of cast metal for yourselves. I am the Lord your God. When you sacrifice a communal sacrifice of well-being to the Lord offered so that it will be accepted on your account. It must be accepted. It must be eaten on the day of your sacrifice or the following day. Whatever is left on the 3rd day must be burned with fire. If any of it is eaten on the 3rd day, it is foul. It will not be accepted. Anyone who eats it will be liable to punishment, because they defile what is holy to the Lord. That person will be cut off from their people. When you harvest your land's produce, you must not harvest all the way to the edge of your field. Don't gather up every remaining bit of your harvest. Also, do not pick your vineyard clean or gather up all the grapes that have fallen there. Leave these items for the poor and the immigrant. I am the Lord your God. You must not steal nor deceive nor lie to each other. You must not swear falsely by my name, desecrating your God's name in doing so. I am the Lord. You must not oppress your neighbors or rob them. Do not withhold a hired laborer's pay overnight. You must not insult a deaf person or put some obstacle in front of a blind person that will cause them to trip. Instead, fear your God. I am the Lord. You must not act unjustly in a legal case. Do not show favoritism to the poor or deference to the great. You must judge your fellow Israelites fairly. Do not go around slandering your people. Do not stand by while your neighbor's blood is shed. I am the Lord. You must not hate your fellow Israelite in your hearts. Rebuke your fellow Israelite strongly so you don't become responsible for his sin. You must not take revenge nor hold a grudge against any of your people. Instead, you must love your neighbor as yourself. I am the Lord. You must keep my rules. Do not crossbreed your livestock. Do not plant your field with two kinds of seed. And do not give clothes. Do not wear clothes made with two kinds of material. Excuse me. If a man has sexual relations with a woman who is a slave engaged to another man who has yet been released, or give her freedom, there must be a punishment. But they will not be put to death because she had not yet been freed. The man must bring as his compensation to the Lord at the meeting's tent entrance a ram for a compensation offering. The priest will use the ram for a compensation offering to make reconciliation for him before the Lord on account of the sin he committed. Then he will be forgiven of the sin that he committed. When you enter the land and plant any fruit trees, you must consider its fruit off limits. For 3 years it will be off limits to you. It must not be eaten. In the 4th year, all the tree's fruit will be holy, a celebration for the Lord. In the 5th year, you can eat the fruit. This is so as to increase its produce for you. I am the Lord your God. You must not eat anything with its blood. You must not participate in divination or fortune telling. You must not cut off the hair on your forehead or clip the ends of your beard. Do not cut your bodies for the dead or put marks on it or put marks on yourselves. I am the Lord. Do not defile your daughter by making her sexually promiscuous, or else the land will become promiscuous and full of shame. You must keep my Sabbaths and treat my sanctuary with respect. I am the Lord. Do not resort to dead spirits or inquire of spirits of divination. You will be made unclean by them. I am the Lord your God. You must rise in the presence of an old person and respect the elderly. You must fear your God. I am the Lord. When immigrants live in your land with you, you must not cheat them. Any immigrant who lives with you must be treated as if they were one of your citizens. You must love them as yourself because you were immigrants in the land of Egypt. I am the Lord your God. You must not act unjustly in a case involving measures of length, weight, or volume. You must have accurate scales and accurate weights and an accurate ephah. Again, that's 20 quarts, by the way. An accurate hin, which is a liquid gallon. I am the Lord your God who brought you out of the land of Egypt. You must keep all my rules and all my regulations and do them. I am the Lord. Leviticus 19. Let's go to Leviticus 24. Leviticus 24. The Lord said to Moses, command the Israelites to bring pure pressed olive oil to you for the lamp, to keep a light burning constantly. Aaron will tend the lamp, which will be inside the meeting tent, but outside the inner curtain of the covenant document from evening until morning before the Lord. This is a permanent rule throughout your future generations. Aaron must continually tend the lights on the pure lampstand before the Lord. You would take choice flour and bake 12 loaves of flat bread, 2/10 of an ephah, which is 4 quarts for each loaf. You must place them in 2 stacks, 6 in a stack on a pure table before the Lord. Put pure frankincense on each stack as a token portion for the bread. It is a food gift for the Lord. Aaron will always set it out before the Lord, Sabbath after Sabbath, on behalf of the Israelites as a permanent covenant. Will belong to Aaron and his sons. They must eat it in a holy place because it is the most holy part of their share of the Lord's food gifts, a permanent portion. The son of an Israelite mother and an Egyptian father came out among the Israelites. A fight broke out between this half Israelite and another Israelite man in the camp. During which the half Israelite blasphemed the Lord's name and cursed. So he was brought to Moses. His mother's name is Shelomith, Debri's daughter from the tribe of Dan. He's put under guards until they can determine the Lord's verdict. Then the Lord said to Moses, take the one who cursed outside the camp. All who heard him would press their hands on his head. Then the whole community would stone him. They tell the Israelites, anyone who curses God will be liable to punishment, and anyone who blasphemes the Lord's name must be executed. That whole community was stone that person, immigrant and citizen alike. Whenever somebody blasphemes the Lord's name, that person will be executed. If anyone kills another person, they must be executed. Someone who kills an animal make amends for it, a life for a life. If someone injures a fellow citizen, they will suffer the same injury. They afflicted broken bone for broken bone, an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. The same injury the person inflicted on the other will be inflicted on them. Someone who kills an animal must make amends for it, but whoever kills a human being must be executed. There is but one law on this matter for you, immigrant or citizen alike, because I am the Lord your God. Moses had told this to the Israelites, so they took the one who cursed outside the camp and stoned him. The Israelites did just as the Lord commanded Moses. Leviticus 24. We'll pause here for right now. We'll be back with part 2. Started from Numbers 30. You're listening to The Corner. Be right back.